So as you probably know, most of my audience is American. I lived in the United States. I write in English. Most of what I do is, for anyone, but really most of it is for an American audience. So don't take this wrong. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Is it a disease? Is it something in the air, in the water? I'm kind of trying to make. First of all, the title itself is so fucking stupid. I'm getting, I'm losing brain cells just by the redhead Latina. Is that news? Is this a surprise for anyone that there's a woman born in South America or Central America that is blonde or redheaded? My wife is blonde. She has blue eyes. She's as white as a healthy human being could possibly be, and barely so. But when is that even news? I just don't get it. How is this? But no, it gets even worse. It gets even more moronic. Listen to this.
The word Hispanic encompasses a large group of people whose heritage includes roots from Spain. Especially when you go south of the border, you realize that it's not relegated to one color of skin.
Yeah, and Spain is not south of the border. Spain is actually in Europe. So whatever you think Latina or Latino or whatever the hell or Hispanic you associate with, it's probably wrong too.
The word Hispanic encompasses a large group of people whose heritage includes roots from Spain. Especially when you go south of the border, you realize that it's not relegated to one color of skin, eyes, or hair. The way our next guest looks may throw some people off, but she's Hispanic and calls herself the redhead Latina. She shares her Mexican-American heritage with over 3 million followers on.
And this lady, she's speaking English, and she's American, but her color seems to indicate that her origin is ethnically elsewhere. She's a black woman that speaks English. For fuck's sake, what is going on? How is this even... how is it that she learned English? She's black. English black people? My head is about to blow up. This is so... But let's go back to the Latina. That she's not actually... She's born in U.S. and didn't speak Spanish at all. So... how the fuck is that anything regarded Latina, whatever you think that is, or Spanish, or anything other than an American young woman that is learning Spanish?
TikTok. Her most popular videos usually include her Mexican mom.
I'm feeling a little chaotic, so I'm gonna tell my Mexican mom that her salsa isn't spicy enough.
Oye, ma, tu salsa sabe diferente.
¿Por qué?
No es tan picosa.
She doesn't know how to speak Spanish. So the famous Latina, it's not about the color of your hair or your eyes or your skin. It's that you don't have any knowledge of this culture that you seem to make people believe. You don't even speak the language. If there's one thing that everyone has in common is you speak fucking Spanish. How the hell is it that you have any sort of identity when you don't even speak it?
Le puse 45 chiles, ¿cómo no va a picar?
¿Por qué no 60?
Ay, no, mijita, por el amor de Dios.
¿No sabe a agua?
No tienes idea. Ahorita le pongo más, no te preocupes.
All right, there's a lot of conversation about some hot...
She's a black lady speaking English. How is this even possible? Aren't you like in some African tribe? You're wearing Western clothes? Oh, I see something like Aboriginal there, right? But she has a watch. I thought that everyone that was black had like a spear and was hunting in the savannah in Africa. Lions. Aren't you fighting a lion right now, lady? How is it? It is the same fucking thing. Even worse, because this girl here, she wasn't born in Mexico. She doesn't speak Spanish. She's nothing at all. Her mom seems to have been born in Mexico. That's as far as it goes. But how the hell is it that you're surprised that someone is learning a different language? It is crazy. It is so idiotic that I just cannot understand how people can be this fucking stupid.
Anasaya joins us to share how social media and a dose of reality and humor help to bridge some cultural gaps. And by the way, did your mom feel like it was necesita más picante?
A little bit, definitely.
A little bit. All right, I want to talk about how you grew up. You grew up in Las Vegas. Your dad's side of the family is the kind of where the Italian Saya last name comes from, but you weren't as close to them because they had passed away. But your mom's side of the family, your mom is from Mexico City.
Yeah.
And so you often visit Mexico and Florida to see family. Your cousins, you say, are more like your siblings. And so time with them really helped you to really understand also, along with your mom, that part of your Mexican culture.
Absolutely. I mean,
What part of Mexico? She was not born in Mexico. She was not brought up in Mexico. She does not even speak fucking Spanish. What culture are you talking about? It's not about the way you look. I mean, again, for crying out loud. Yes, there's black and white Americans. How is it so difficult to understand that the same exact fucking thing may happen in our countries? There may be black or white or redhead Mexicans as well as any other country. It is not about that. But how is it that you make a thing about this woman having any sort of Mexican identity when she was not born there, doesn't even speak?
of being bilingual in school.
They didn't do back then, all of them were saying things sometimes change. Now, in my day, I remember I moved.
Kind of been included into that part of my family. So that's
Yeah.
all I really know.
Yeah, okay, with that said, Spanish is not your first language, so you kind of went the opposite way. So Spanish is your second language, but you feel like it's important to connect to that. You know, we have so many Spanish speakers around the world, but when you come to America, things sometimes change. Now, in my day, I remember I moved from Taiwan to San Antonio, and I was mesmerized by this.
You're Taiwanese too? What is going on here? She's Chinese, Taiwanese? Isn't it all the same? Why are you black, lady, if you're Chinese all of a sudden?
Spanish language. I loved it. But my friends would say, we're not allowed to speak it out of the home. We're not allowed to speak it. So what they didn't do back then, all of them were saying, I wish I learned it. I wish I learned it.
Yeah, no, I definitely can relate to them because the whole reason why it's not my first language was because my mom, she just knew the struggle of being bilingual in school, especially, you know, just trying to learn things, and it would put me at a disadvantage in her eyes. So that was why.
No. Your mom is like so many Mexicans. She has no connection with any Mexican tradition of it. She was just born there. She moved to U.S. and she wanted to be American. And in her eyes, the idea of being American was, we don't even speak our fucking language anymore. You have no connection with any Hispanic, Latin tradition of any kind. Your mother did not even teach you to speak your so-called your own language. Why? Because it's easier? No, it's not. You're actually, by the way, anyone that doesn't know this, you're smarter when you speak both languages. My kids are bilingual. My fucking 60-year-old speaks fluent English and Spanish. Why? Because you teach that shit. You're Spanish. You keep speaking Spanish. When you're living in a English-speaking country, kids learn both. It is the easiest thing in the world for them to learn two languages. They have no problem whatsoever. There's not going to be an added struggle simply because in your household you're speaking Spanish while in school they speak in English. You're going to be learning both just fine. That's how plastic the brain of a child actually is. It's like a sponge. It absorbs everything, and in fact, it scientifically makes you smarter. There's been studies that prove that when you learn two languages as a baby, as a very small child, you actually become smarter than when you were. Yes, your brain is doing more shit than it would usually do, so it makes sense. But going back to this non-Hispanic redhead Latina, well,
I would only hear it. I would only, whenever she was talking with my aunt or my cousin, she would always speak Spanish. But so I understood a lot of it. I was kind of like a little bilingual as a kid, but I just couldn't speak it. And later on, I was like, you
couldn't speak the fucking language, and you're the redhead Latina that doesn't speak Spanish. Okay, yeah, that's like the black American that I don't know the first thing about U.S. You even speak English? No, I don't. Of course not. Oh, were you born in U.S.? No. So you were not born in U.S., you don't speak English, and you don't know the first thing about how the fuck is it you're American in any possible way? Well, I don't know.
I just really want to learn. I want to connect with my relatives. I want to understand and have like a good concept of
And
the
start
language.
TikTok,
Just
yeah.
for me personally. I mean, my sister, she went a different route. She doesn't know it as well as I do anymore. But now to me, it's very important that I know it because of that reason.
What made you decide to share it on social media?
I think it was just I understood that there was a lot of different people that were like me that, I call myself a no sabo kid, and that just means that same thing. I didn't really grow up speaking it, so it's kind of broken. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that, and it kind of shies them away from learning the language. So when I put myself on social media, I wanted it to be coming from a place of, okay, well, this is why I can't speak it as well, and also encourage others to want to learn so that way they don't feel as shy or as intimidated by it, because once you get a handle of it, like it is very amazing to speak and to be a part of such an amazing culture.
Yeah, you found a lot of people who are like, okay, that represents me too. And then you found those who are like, wait a minute, look at her. She doesn't look the part. But, as I mentioned earlier, it's really interesting when you go.
Doesn't look the part, says the black American lady. Americans are white, aren't they? No, they're black too. That's impossible. It could not be both. No.
Especially south of Mexico, you see that when you say look the part, that look is everything. Then there's your race versus your ethnicity versus your nationality. When I was down in Venezuela, they go, Negrita Cubana, Negrita Colombia, Negrita Jaimacana. They didn't know what I was, right? And then when I said American, they went, ay, really? So it's everything. It has all types of looks. But for you, you dye your hair, so like, oh, maybe that's it. Maybe her hair is black. But your hair is really naturally what?
Blonde.
Yeah. So
I'm a wet, which means like just white all over, really.
And so what lessons do
It's
you
so crazy. This is in the news. There's a white woman born in Chicago, is it? So there's a white American woman that is kind of struggling to learn Spanish. Oh, and her mom was born in Mexico. That is newsworthy, apparently, in Houston, of all fucking places.
people learn with that?
I just hope, especially in the US, there is just a lot of, like, they call it diversity, but they don't see the whole side of the spectrum. We are a huge diverse culture within it of itself. So being able to be proud of my heritage and just kind of share my own experiences, I have a real understanding now that a lot of people understand that I am doing a good thing, and making sure that people don't feel as left out, regardless of what you look like, what you sound like. I'm only one side of the story. There's a whole other spectrum that I hope other Hispanics will be more vocal about.
Other Hispanics. She's Hispanic apparently now. Okay.
And it's just, happens to be my story, and I'm glad I get to share it with people, and people can connect with my own experiences.
Yeah. Were you surprised?
Are we getting dumber? Like it's not just Americans. Is the entire world getting more stupid by the day, year by year? I know we're getting weaker. Everyone, all of humanity. Men. This is something I was reading about just yesterday. Men are weaker now. Like from one generation to the next, it's like fucking crazy. Like 10-15% less strength, grip strength, for the same age gap. Like 10-15% weaker than the previous generation. We're getting weaker. Are we getting dumber too? Because who the fuck is surprised by some... Again, she's not even what she claims to be. She's not Latina, Hispanic. She's not Mexican. She wasn't born there, right? She has no connection. She doesn't even speak. You have no fucking connection whatsoever with that culture, with that country. You're just learning Spanish poorly, and this is something that shocks you enough to be in the news?
Why is it the reaction you got with 3 million followers?
I didn't care. But then I realized
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be how it was, because it all happened by accident in the beginning. And the more that I shared about it, the more that I kind of just went with it, more people just resonated with it. And, that just made me feel like I'm doing something right, regardless of, if I had 3 million or if I had 1,000. To me, it was more about connecting with people than, trying to get to the...
Yeah, awesome. Anyway, American girl does TikTok about her learning kind of to speak in Spanish. Okay, fantastic. That's all, guys. See you next time. Take care.